Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Unalienable Right. Dr. Cordy Williams and Sean Farish here with you again. We're streaming everywhere. I'm about to go live on Getter right now just to fire this stream up. We're on Rumble. We're on Dr. Cordy's Facebook. We're on my Facebook, on my YouTube channel, on our Rumble channel. Rumble is the best place to go. So if you check out all of our socials, you'll see where it's at. Rumble.com. Right now, it's at rumble.com/Sean Farish right now until we put the show channel together, which I should be able to do now that I have a certain amount of subs on there. We'll be able to throw an entire show channel up. But it's been a couple weeks. There's been a lot of traveling and a lot going on. But Dr. Cordy, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great. And yeah, I want to apologize for everybody or to everybody for not having the show the last couple of weeks. That's been me. My mom passed away about 4 days ago. So she was in the hospital before that. So we've kind of been, as a family, really digging in and praying and all that. But glad to be back because we got a lot to talk about there, my New York friend.
Yes, and my California friend. There you go, because California and New York, as it turns out, when you look at it, the two probably bluest states in the union saved the House of Representatives for the Republican Party. Lee Zeldin obviously leading the ticket here in New York. California, there were some nice congressional wins. I know the governor's race and a couple of other races didn't necessarily go the way we had wanted, but there were congressional seats and different districts that flipped. So it was New York and California, the two states that everyone likes to call a lost cause, that saved the House of Representatives for the Republican Party. And now yesterday, Donald Trump announcing that he's running for president again. I know you watched it. What did you think? What were your immediate takeaways from yesterday's speech?
Well, what I would say first about just the midterms is I think that we have Fetterman or his family members counting in multiple states where we still don't have votes back. I think I heard something like there are 60,000 ballots here in California that still haven't been counted in some counties. Voters, I literally had a lady call me an hour ago, Sean, and she's like, Doc, what do? I'm going online and it's showing I didn't vote and I know I did. So just those stories just really, really concern and I think paint the picture of how corrupt and rigged, and I'll have you say it in a Trump-esque voice.
Rigged system.
It's
a rigged system. It's extremely rigged. We all know about it.
I love it. But Mike Garcia won in District 27. Kevin Kiley, to name just a few, that were able to win despite the corruption, despite the rigging. But I think it's it's a blessing. I think it also shows what would be possible if those state GOPs actually did something. That scumbag Kevin McCarthy is probably going to be the Speaker of the House. Yeah. We're ditching Mitch. In the wake of that, President Trump announces, I think there's so many things to talk about tonight, but, thank God that it's Kevin McCarthy instead of Nancy Pelosi. But there's a lot of difference, but not much difference between Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi. They've sold their countries out to obviously she's, very hyper in the way she sold her country out. But Kevin has too, and he's sold out this state GOP. I'm pretty sure there are friends of ours that have had money pulled from their campaigns.
Yes.
I'm not going to say any names because of that scumbag. And, it's like we saved the republic, our two states, with the national GOP and in most cases the state GOP helping none of our friends, Sean, and we still did it in spite of them. What would be possible if they were actually unified? So, what are your thoughts about that? And then I promise I'll go back to Trump in a second.
No problem. I mean, the midterms, I've been very vocal, very open about the fact that I call it the mixed-establishment. McCarthy, McDaniel, McConnell. The mixed-establishment has got to go. All right? Kevin McCarthy, we can't – look, do I think he's going to be like Paul Ryan bad? No. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Would I like to see a different leader? Absolutely. And that's why I give a lot of credit, because you got to understand, like you said, some of our friends have been screwed over by money being pulled because of Kevin McCarthy. Not going to name names, as you said, but it's true. A lot of people have been screwed over by him and his ties to the establishment and the way he likes to do things. So I give a lot of credit to a guy like Matt Gaetz, who is being very open and very honest about the fact that we're going to challenge this guy. We're going to make sure that he's going to be held accountable because we have principles. We understand, what it means to respectfully and responsibly govern and represent the best wishes of the people. I believe we would have seen a much bigger red wave. We talked about it the week before the election. We spoke about it at length about the fact that, we thought that 40, I thought for certain 30 plus seats were going to flip. Nothing close to that happened. I thought we were going to win the Senate. That didn't happen. And now this Herschel Walker race is very important because a 50-50 Senate, although we still lose because of Kamala Harris, a 50-50 Senate means the committees are even. Democrats don't get to hijack these Senate committees and run with them. If Manchin or Sinema breaks ranks in some of these votes, that can neutralize Kamala Harris as well. But McCarthy, McDaniel, and McConnell, the McStablishment has to go. And those three names right now, they're all ducking accountability. I have it here in the ticker. The McStablishment is ducking accountability. They're scapegoating Donald Trump to avoid facing accountability for what they failed to do in the midterms. When McConnell took money out of key races and instead of spending money in New Hampshire attacking Maggie Hassan, he spent money in Alaska attacking another Republican in Kelly Chewbacca. To me, this makes no sense. You're not going to grow the party. And these guys are so hell-bent on power and influence rather than doing what's right for the country. They're no better than the people on the other side. So it was pretty disgusting to see it. And then to see the establishment completely turn their back on Donald Trump. And it's not just the establishment. There was a lot of mainstream podcast influencers who did the same thing. And I'm not anti-DeSantis. I don't think DeSantis is a member of the establishment either. But you're seeing the establishment coalesce around somebody who they believe maybe not is a great choice for the country, but can take down Donald Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome the same way the left does. It's a big problem within our party. But hopefully over the next couple of years, we can work to fix that. And I think we will. But I'm also fired up after what I heard last night, and I'm excited to see what you say about it.
No, to your point, I think that we will get to the announcement. Yeah. But as part of the announcement, because we knew that it was going to happen,
right?
Last night, right? Obviously, we knew that, and it would have been, a nuclear bomb had it not. With all the hype, he was alluding to it, but you and I are just jealous that we weren't there. But it's amidst everything, I think that the whole DeSantis thing is a psyop. Mm-hmm. First of all, I think it's a diversion, but I think people have to understand. It's just like my friend Sebastian Gorka said. When Paul Ryan wants to give money to you, that's not a good thing. No. That's not something to be happy about. And Paul Ryan has indicated that he would back DeSantis. A number of rhinos have. And I guarantee the McChickens that you spoke about are going to be 100% behind
the McChicken.
DeSantis.
Really? The McChickens?
Yeah, the McChickens. And it just came out, and then I'm like, wow, they're all cowards and scumbags, so that really fits. The McChickens.
I love that.
You got to give me credit for that one if you like that. You got to just say, hey, Cordy said this one.
Absolutely.
So the McChickens, to start with, the biggest one, that scumbag McConnell. If DeSantis announces he's going to back him, Ronna McDaniel's going to back him, and McCarthy, we're going to find out how loose his underwear is.
Right.
Okay. Is it like Sleepy Joe's or, is it not? Who knows? And so, because I think he's going to betray Trump. I think he's like Brutus or Judah from the Bible. Mm-hmm. Jesus said, Jesus actually said this to Peter: before the rooster crows 3 times, you will betray me, right? And I honestly believe that about McCarthy.
I do too.
Even Trump endorsed McCarthy. I think it's a matter of time when McCarthy feels like he has enough political pull and power, and there's a little bit of tension where he could do the right thing and be a man with balls and testicular fortitude, I think he's going to cave because he identifies as a transgender hermaphrodite, probably.
Yeah.
And he's a scumbag, and he doesn't know what honor or conviction or courage is. But yeah, he just doesn't. He's a McChicken.
Yes, I love that term, McChickens. That's great. That's that's really funny. I think that's a good one. And I think, like you said, because McConnell's done it. McConnell's turned his back on Trump. Trump endorsed him in 2016 here in a tight race in Kentucky, 2018. So McConnell turned his back on Donald Trump. Lindsey Graham is about as not our friend Lindsey Graham, by the way. She's the cool Lindsey Graham. The other Lindsey Graham, the senator. This guy.
Well, I think he's a she too.
I was going
so
to say, he definitely, I believe, is seated when he pees. I definitely think he.
And I think he likes bottom.
Yeah,
I think he likes bottom.
I think you're right about that. But he's one of those wishy-washy guys. Would turn his back on Trump as well. And it's a shame. It's a shame to watch it. And the establishment, again, they'll go and they'll coalesce behind anybody who they think can take Donald Trump down. And I hope Ron DeSantis doesn't run this year. I don't think he's as big a threat to Donald Trump as a lot of people want to say he is, because we do live in a hypersensitive time where something that happened 30 seconds ago is now all of a sudden the thing. And then, you wait 24 to 72 hours, as Dan Bongino says. It's called the Bongino rule. Now, all of a sudden, it's not a thing anymore. Even yesterday, if we do get a chance to get to this today, where we heard about a Russian missile, Russia. We heard about a Russian missile that landed in Poland and killed 2 people. And then we find out this morning, and by the way, I tweeted about this last night. And I said, maybe we're supposed to believe it's Russia, but, why would they have missed now? They not even they didn't hit. It's 50 miles, and we find out that the missile came from Ukraine, and because Ukraine has a bigger financial interest in NATO coming in and being a part of this fight than Russia does, as we know. Yeah. So give it time, and people jumping ship and then turning their backs. And Donald Trump got us here, and I'm not saying you have to kiss his ass, you have to worship him. I'm not in a cult, and I said this on Newsmax last Friday. But we have to remember how we got here. And we have to be thankful for the man who led us here. And we have to not just be so weak that we turn our back on him when he has taken all of the heat, all of the fire for us, and hasn't turned his back on us. And now he's doing it again. He should just, if I was him, honestly, if I was him, I'd keep going because I'm stubborn. But any other person, the FBI raids your home? I know parents who don't go to school board meetings anymore because the DOJ thinks they're terrorists, which is fine. But, if Donald Trump thought like that because the media said he was something, or the DOJ classified him as something, or he might get indicted, or the FBI, he wouldn't be doing this. And we would be handing over our party back to the establishment. They probably feel like they can control DeSantis. They can't control Trump.
Well, and let's be honest, too. Trump, what Trump has been through, DeSantis is a strong guy, but I was talking to somebody about this, and I like DeSantis, right?
Me
but
too.
Don't challenge the Godfather, okay?
Right.
Don't challenge the guy. And you and I have talked about this before. I'm an Alabama guy, Marines, all that, and then 50% of my family is either Irish Catholic, Italian, or from New York, right? So there's a loyalty thing. There's a code, right? And the unwritten code is the guy that got you there, you don't mother F him, right? And if you announce, you're mother effing him. And that says a lot about your character and your conviction. But it also shows that, too, this guy, DeSantis, has big crowds, but he doesn't have Kid Rock concerts.
Right.
He doesn't have Woodstock environments where he goes. Trump does. The people want Trump because Trump has been the brash guy that always said what nobody else wanted to say. And we're loyal to him because of that, because we didn't want a conventional politician. The establishment, the mainstream, lamestream media does, but we don't. And so I don't really think that, DeSantis could handle a lot of what Trump has endured. I think, just like I've said forever about the skinny jean, fog machine, laser beam churches, right, that have benefited and capitalized on, I think there's some well-intended churches that capitalized, and it was they earnestly spiritually believed that that's what God was calling them to do, which is say, hey, we should be able to worship, but and we should be able to have have our God, worship our God, all that. But I also think there are congregations that have exploited what's happened, just like there are influencers that have exploited what happened.
Yes.
And I think that while it may have appeared to be very hard for DeSantis to go against the grain, I think he also knew it was politically going to benefit him. And he did it in a really interesting time where there weren't really leaders. And I think he saw politically what the political ROI could be on being the outsider and saying, hey, I'm going to go with my gut and I'm going to stand here. Maybe he had pure intentions. I don't know. I haven't seen many politicians ever that have had pure intentions. Um, but a guy that stood up, that's been a billionaire, and I can't, when people say they want to look at his tax records, I'm blown away because nobody's asking for McCarthy's tax
Right.
records. Nobody's asking for the McNuggets. What did I
The
say? The
McChickens.
McChickens. Yeah,
The
yeah. Nobody's
McNuggets
asking for
now.
the
They're
McChickens.
McNuggets now.
That's right. And the McNuggets. There you go. They're all fat, so there you go. Right.
Yeah.
So that would be McNuggets too.
That's funny. It's like we should try and figure out like a name. I call Ronald McDaniel Ronald McDonald, and you have McChicken and McNugget. You have McFlurry. I don't know if we could maybe come up with names where we could find these guys on the dollar menu. The one thing about DeSantis that I love is I do think he's genuine. I think he cares about kids. I think he also understands too. That the battle is to be won on the culture war. That's where the fight is to be. But when you look at how he could have benefited from Trump, when Trump is over here making all this noise over here, and Ron DeSantis is over here working under the radar. If Trump goes away, Ron DeSantis becomes public enemy number one. Can he withstand the same amount of heat that Donald Trump has withstood? Yes? No?
Yeah.
I don't know. The real answer, the honest question, the honest answer to that honest question is we don't know yet. What we do know is that Donald Trump can handle it because he has not wavered. And not for nothing, but if we do pass the torch to DeSantis early, 4 years early, you're going to be dealing with, instead of a president coming in where it will be Trump in 24 until 28, not worried about re-election, right? He's not worried about, what do I do to earn re-election? He's going to come in and go full ultra MAGA on this country. It'll be great. DeSantis comes in, maybe he goes 3/4 because he has to worry about being reelected for that second term. So I want to go in there with the guy with unfinished business, no re-election looming over his head, a guy who has never wavered after all of the attacks. Let him do his thing for 4 more years and then pass the torch to the obvious heir apparent, the obvious long-term future of the Republican Party, and that is Ron DeSantis. Now, with that being said, I understand there's a primary and he might announce, he hasn't announced yet. I want to see him step aside, stay in Florida, let Donald Trump run over real establishment guys like Pompeo and Pence and Larry Hogan. Let him smash those guys to bits, and then let this happen. Let Trump go ahead, run for president, 4 years, and pass the torch to the long-term future of this party, Ron DeSantis. And hopefully Donald Trump doesn't, with the nicknames and the DeSanctimonious, that helps nobody. And I know that's who he is, and he can't help himself, but he should chill out on that, especially because the guy hasn't announced yet. But I do think by doing that, he was simply marking his territory.
Well, yeah, and I think so. But I think that, I was frustrated with him when he did that because this isn't a McCarthy or a McConnell.
Right.
Like the rumors that Paul Ryan's backing him, that hasn't physically happened yet. We think it's going to. We think the rhinos are going to back him, but it hasn't happened yet. So in the people's eyes, what you're doing is those middle of the road I would say snowflake Republicans that would rather vote for Bush if they had their opportunity, right? Because I'll just say their testicles haven't dropped. Those Republicans, right? Those guys and gals, they don't want to hear Trump say that. And I think that's where there's a lot of people concerned. I was at a cigar night last night, hence the crusty voice. And, we're having a good time, all that stuff. And there were 5 Republicans that are concerned about independent voters or even Republicans that are the snowflake Republicans. And if he launches into that type of rhetoric, because I think that rhetoric was needed, people were ready for that in 2016. I think because of the smear propaganda media machine, what it's done to villainize um, Donald Trump, I think that's where in this reelection bid, he's going to have to be really careful. And I'm a Trump guy. I mean, I love that brashness. That's what has always attracted me. That's the way I
As do
am.
I.
You know, anybody who follows me knows that.
Yeah.
But but I think that's where we could lose some people. And I also think that um, I do think DeSantis, I don't think he's ready for the job. I agree with everything that you said. And I think fracturing the Republican Party and to Laura Trump's what she said on a show yesterday, the day before yesterday, she indicated what the impact that would have on the party as a whole, and I agree with it. I think the primary would be really ugly. I think it could get really ugly, and I think that DeSantis is, while he's a great guy, I think he can be bought. I just innately feel that way. That there's a polishedness to him that is from the old guard, and it's not Trump-esque, where he likes to ride the line. I mean, he's nowhere. He's not a McCarthy or a
No.
McConnell in his vernacular or his demeanor. But yeah, that's just my concern,
Yeah,
man.
and what was good about last night is that we didn't see Donald Trump throw nicknames or, he got his jabs in. There was a line in there that I remember distinctly last night watching, and he said, "We have a president who falls asleep at global conferences," and I loved it. That was really funny, but he didn't do Sleepy Joe. There was no Crooked Hillary. There was no Nervous Nancy. There was no Ron DeSanctimonious. There was none of that last night. And there were
Yeah,
some people who were disappointed by that. But they had to understand what they were watching last night was not a Trump rally. It was an announcement of a presidential candidacy. And I
true.
think he understands now that he's got his base. All of the people like you, like me, and like a lot of people who wanted to see some more of the funny last night are still going to vote for him regardless. He knows that he
Right.
has to expand the party again. He expanded the party in 2016. He got people that were never involved in politics out and involved in politics because they go, this guy talks like me. I don't like Nancy Pelosi. I don't like this Obama. I don't like Bernie Sanders. This guy I don't like Hillary Clinton. He talks like me. I'm going to go vote for him. I like this guy. I'm getting the Trump. I'm getting a MAGA hat. And he expanded the party that way, found a lot of hidden voters or new voters. We got them. And the Democrats have done the same thing. They've expanded their party. They've done it through the mail, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But Donald Trump now realizes that he's got to put forth a front of strength. He's got to put forth an image of strength. He's got to unify his entire party. That means if the establishment doesn't want to get behind him, he'll do it without them. He knows that. And this is where they're making a big mistake by doing anything but Trump again. The Never Trump movement is back. They are, again, making this guy a political outsider. He is only more dangerous. It's like Obi-Wan in Star Wars. If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. That's what's happening with Trump. You take me down, you throw shots at me, it's just going to anger the people who I know are going to come out and vote for me. But he's got to appeal to more of the independents, and that's why yesterday, Mike Huckabee said this on Newsmax, he's looking through the windshield instead of the rearview mirror. There's a reason why your windshield is a lot bigger than your rearview mirror. Because what's in front of you is a lot more important than what's back there. And I'm not saying we don't have to take care of 2020. We don't want to clean up Maricopa. We don't want to clean up Pennsylvania. We don't want to clean up Michigan. We do want to do those things. But he is focused on the future. What we did not hear last night once was anything about a stolen election. And there were people, oh my goodness, he didn't address the cheating. He's been addressing it for the last 2 years. He understands that what he had to do last night was put forth the plan going forward to hit the issues that are polling high, that most voters want to hear about: inflation, jobs, energy independence, the foreign affairs, the fact that the Middle East is under siege, the fact that the stock market it has been destroyed, that there are massive layoffs, censorship, freedom of speech attacks, and he focused on that and focused all of his attention and negative energy on Joe Biden, and I think it was brilliant.
No, I 100% agree. And he he had 17 candidates in the primary. I think it was between 16 and
Yeah.
18. You can correct
Yeah,
me.
it was, yep, yep.
And in the primary in 2016, and he had to be that brash, unconventional New Yorker to take all of them
Had to
out.
stand out.
100% had to stand out. And then Hillary was such a vile, satanic witch, and as he would say, a nasty girl, that he had to be just as vile with her. But then what's happened, to your point and my point, and what we've talked about several times, is, then there came this media onslaught where he was villainized for everything. And then January 6th happened, and they tried to say that that wasn't rigged. And then just there's all this past. But in looking forward, what people can look at is, what are the fruits of the labor of voting for a guy with dementia, a guy that, another guy, his son named Fetterman,
Mm-hmm.
who was birthed by Sleepy Joe, because Sleepy Joe identified as a woman the day he had Fetterman. And you have two just feckless morons for different reasons that shouldn't hold their office, right? They just shouldn't hold the office, not because of a disability. They shouldn't hold the office because they're unqualified because of their disability,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
But the disability unfortunately disqualifies them. If you want to go, I mean, I hate Sleepy Joe, obviously, but if you just want to be a human being for a second,
Right.
towards the feckless individual, what you can say is he's just unqualified, just like Fetterman is. So, and now you have a guy that, to your point, a president that has seen kind of the makings of looking at that rearview mirror, where he's at right now, and he's having that self-control to say, hey, I'm going to be brash, but there's times when I have to be well-mannered and polite, but not a politician. I can still speak to my grassroots elements and my grassroots constituents, because that's who I am. I'm that New York guy on the street that's been with construction workers. I've been building things. I've been building things and working hard my entire life, and but I'm not going to get into the name calling, and I'm not going to feed into my political adversaries anymore, right? I'm not going to give them more ammunition. And I thought it was brilliant what he did, and I think he continues on with that strategy, attacking Sleepy Joe, and I don't know where it flips. It's going to be interesting to see whether Biden. I don't know what Biden's deadline is for announcing if he's going to run again for re-election, which is going to be fascinating, and who's going to throw in. And when Adolph Newsom throws his hat in the ring, that's going to be interesting. I think DeSantis, from what people are saying, he can't announce until May, or it wouldn't be politically advantageous for him if he did announce until May, because the state legislature of Florida, I think, convenes on May 11th or something.
Right.
So he wouldn't do anything till May.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
So it's going to.
And I would say that also, it was advantageous for Trump to do it early, because he's the first guy in the pool and he's the only guy in the pool, and so all the water's his, everything is his. It's all his right now. So essentially, he's the first guy in there. He's the clear leader of the party in terms of popularity right now. DeSantis is number 2, and there really is no number 3. And if Ron DeSantis decides in May, like you said, that he's not going to run for president, if he decides, and that's a long time from now, and if Donald Trump can keep it under wraps, look, Herschel Walker winning in Georgia would be a big feather in the cap for Donald Trump, because that's his guy, it's his pick, and they're slamming over endorsements. And he mentioned that, and I want everyone to understand this too. He mentioned Herschel Walker yesterday in his speech before he announced his candidacy. He wanted everyone to know that's priority number 1 is Georgia, right? Herschel Walker, priority number 1. But I do think that him getting in early, and if DeSantis is going to wait until May to announce what he's doing, that gives Donald Trump 8 months or so, 7 months to keep it under control, stay focused on the future, because as much as I love the fun and the rallies and that's not to say he can't do rallies, but as much as I love having fun and hearing what he says and do that, listen, I'll do all the funny stuff. You stay focused on the future, sir. You know what I mean? Like, because you can't. We don't want to squander this opportunity, because 4 more years of this guy without re-election being held over his head, it would be a serious, serious blow to the establishment, and we have to start taking ground back from them and from the Democrats as well. So I believe last night we watched a measured, disciplined, strong, somber, and serious speech that was delivered by Trump, and I thought it was the right way to go about it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I was beyond like proud of him, and wish I had been there. Wish I had been there, actually.
Yep, I would have been nice to be there, but we weren't there. And now I see some folks in the Getter chat talking about we need to harvest for Herschel, which brings up a very interesting thing that seems to be catching on. It's something that I had said right after the midterms, right after the first night of apparently election week of all the counting, was ballot harvesting. Why don't Republicans do it? I like to equate this to a hockey game where you look at a team who's playing hockey. They only want to score their goals in the third period. In the first 2 periods, they just take off. Well, they can go, well, we have the talent to score 6 goals a game, and we're going to do it in 20 minutes. Well, you play 60 minutes in a hockey game, right? Republicans have kind of become a one-dimensional team in that we throw all of our energy at Election Day. We don't encourage anybody to early vote. We don't encourage anybody to vote by mail. And so when we get to Election Day, when we get to the third period, we're that hockey team down by 5 goals. And now how do you win? If you don't hit and if you don't get perfection on Election Day, you lose. And so what we saw Rick Grinnell say yesterday on Newsmax was that those congressional races that went our way in California, there was ballot harvesting that was done. And in races like in Pennsylvania, the article in the Epic Times that I've been reading all day, that there were 86% of the mail-in ballots requested in Philadelphia County were Democrats, 5% were Republicans. This is a problem. If we don't use all 3 phases of the resources, if we don't play all 3 phases of the game, we will continue to lose. So I think it is very important for Republicans to seriously consider, if not commit, to making sure that we target those unlikely voters, the ones that don't come out in primaries, that don't come out in midterm cycles, that don't vote in local elections, and get them set up with mail-in balloting. Because I'm not going to vote by mail. You're probably not going to vote by mail. A lot of my friends aren't going to vote by mail. But I'm not looking to change the way they vote because they vote. I'm looking to get people who sit on the sidelines and don't vote because they're lazy, they don't know to vote, they don't know all of these things, to get them hooked up with an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot, fill it out, send it in, and now we're putting more points on the board. I think this is extremely important if we want to win elections going forward and combat the ballot harvesting and the cheating that we see on the Democrat side.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I were discussing this earlier today, and then we were talking about it right before we came on. I think we need a national effort. We need to be in all 50 states. I've said this on other shows before, not related to ballot harvesting, but and you and I agree on this. Obviously, the Antifa, BLM, Soros-funded BS is going to start up at some point. Who knows when it is? And it may look different, maybe a different group, maybe a different thing, but his dark money is going somewhere right now to fund something. And I have a feeling we're going to see the riots and the racial BS that the media is propagating happen. And, God forbid, another George Floyd type scenario, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And we need to have an answer for that. And I just firmly believe that answer is kind of like chapters or cells, if you want to call them that, in 50 different states, doing what Scott Pressler is doing, doing what you just contended or said, and it's going door to door. Honestly, it's going door to door on a massive level, and so I think we need to start pushing to raise money for that. We need to start mobilizing that. And what that's going to do, if we get a lot of press and media off of it, like we talked about off air, is, then we'll be able to get people like a Steve Bannon, a Charlie Kirk involved, and That's really what it's going to take, because these state GOPs, and Sean, I know I don't have to tell you this. I mean, these state GOPs, I don't know what they're doing. It's like, sometimes you look around, you're like, are you actually playing for my side? Are you playing so my kids can have a future? Or are you playing for the Democrats? Or no, let me rethink this. You're actually just worried about your political future, and you don't actually care where the country goes. And man, it's insane. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I watch it and I look at just how easy it is what the Democrats do. And I have Sharon here in the chat. She's a loyal follower on Long Island on Facebook, asking what the procedure is. And I think what Cordy was saying is basically there has to be either a national effort or state by state efforts. People have got to start up little, whether it's a nonprofit or some sort of way to accumulate funding, and then go ahead and put that funding to work. Buy what's necessary, purchase what's necessary, whether it's voter data, mailing addresses, anything like that, and do what what the Democrats did in New York was brilliant. And we knew it. I knew it from, I don't know, it was 3-4 weeks. I was running numbers. Where's my look? This pad that I have right here, I don't know if you can see it. All of that, those are all electoral projections. This is all Zeldin versus Hochul. These are all numbers that I was running, right? One after there's another one back here. Hold on. One after another. Just of just numbers. What did we need? I had it. So I kept it because this is all calculations. Republicans needed to come out with 70% of their registered voters in New York to win this election. And we didn't do it because you're never going to get 70% of your registered voters to come out if you're only coming out on one day. When Democrats were voting for 15 days here in New York before the election with early voting, when they were sending their votes in through the mail. You want to do 55% on one day? That's incredible. That would have won the election in any other year. But now that you have these other two phases of elections, mail-in voting and early voting, in order to get to 70%, you've got to encourage people to be a part of all of the process. So you've got to there are people that will have to go door to door, and we will have the data if this is to come to fruition, which I would like it to be. Look, if you have the mailing addresses of where these requests are going, these forms that people can fill out to request an absentee ballot, then you have the ability to go to those homes, to knock on those doors and say, hi, sir, ma'am, my name is so-and-so at this organization. We sent you a form. We wanted to know if you filled up or followed up with that request, and if you plan on voting in the 2024 election. That's it.
Sean, what I was going to interject or say is what I thought about is in implementing this, and I think this is one of the gifts that God gave me is, what I'm seeing, man, is there are so many people in every state, because each state's laws are so different around mail-in voting, early voting, voting in person, just the whole voting system is different in all 50 states. We almost need to have like dumbed down training videos on how to do this as we explore creating this group of 50 different entities, right? And then I think the other thing we need is really just a guide, kind of like bullet point explaining this to people, explaining different dates and bullet points. I mean, I think the voting system has been made really complicated, and it's not, to create confusion and to create, people that are just give up, are uninvolved and say, screw it. This is all I know. This is what I'm going to do. And honestly, we've been taught not to critically think or ask questions. The media has done that to us. And that's where I think we've grown as a society and as a movement a lot in 3 to 4 years. But now it's time to just up it another level. We have to start, just like you take accountability for your health, we've got to start to take accountability for our elections. And I think what you're saying is truth, brother. And I think that's the next move.
I mean, could you imagine
for you
vote counters or the Democrat Party in Arizona, in Nevada, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and in Pennsylvania not seeing this coming? Our group, Loud Majority, right? We say we're the loud majority. We're going to come out. There's no reason to be silent anymore. And it's true. There's no reason to be silent anymore. But the new silent majority are the people who polling, and they all, the pollsters got this wrong. No, the pollsters didn't get it wrong. They just are polling conventionally. Our elections have changed and have adapted a new dynamic that you can't pick up in polling. Because I used a blend of polls to project how many votes Kathy Hochul was going to get, and I was 60,000 votes off out of 3 million. Okay? If I can do it, I'm not a math whiz. I just looked at polls like until 2 in the morning every night, and my eyes started to burn, and I said, here's what we're going to do, and that's what those calculations were, to find the numbers that we needed, and I found the numbers that we needed, and we didn't hit the numbers that we needed, right? Polling can't pick up for the folks who are going to just fill out a ballot and send it into the mail. Could you imagine the people who are counting votes for the next week after the presidential election in 24, who are expecting the blue avalanche of mail-in ballots that would be coming in after the election? And it's not a blue avalanche at all. It's, instead of it being 95-5 for Democrats, which is how it was in Philadelphia County, essentially, 80-20 for Democrats, 70-30 for Democrats, instead it's 55-45. The fact that Loudoun County went 55-45 for Democrats last year in Virginia in their vote is what flipped the entire state. We can make a difference right there. You talk about expanding the party, because right now, unfortunately, a ballot has become more valuable than a vote. And you can say, that doesn't make any sense. A ballot is a vote. No, a ballot is a piece of paper. A vote is a ballot that is filled out, completed, and been counted. And a ballot has become more valuable than a vote. A vote you used to have to earn. A ballot you can just acquire. You can pick up. You can request. If you're campaigning for president, back before there was mass mail-in balloting, you used to have to earn votes. You had to speak to issues that would motivate people to come out on election day and vote for you. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just say, I'm a Democrat, vote Democrat on your absentee ballot, send it in the mail. And they harvest these ballots and they go ahead and do that. As long as the ballot is a hotter commodity than the vote, we have to play the same game as those who harvest ballots. And we have to go out there, and then I want to change these rules. I want to go back to voting only on election day. I want to go back to having all these votes counted on election night. I don't want early voting to be taking place before debates are held or for 2.5 weeks before elections. I don't want that. But we don't have the pieces in place to change that right now. So we've got to win these elections the way they're winning elections. We've got to accumulate the ballots the way they're accumulating the ballots. We've got to, and it's not illegal. It's not cheating. They're just better at it than we are, in this case, for that practice in particular. We can do it. We haven't done it yet, and we were this close. If we were doing it, we would have won so many seats this cycle, it wouldn't have even been funny.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. You can't say, well, we're going to be righteous and we're going to choose not to. The speed limit is changed to 60, but my granddaddy told me it was 30 for 40 years. You're going to lose. That's a race you're always going to lose. And yeah, I mean, we've been playing off these antiquated rules and these antiquated strategies that don't work. So I think that, when you continue to fail at something, you have to look at the fruits of your labor and say, is what I'm doing working? And that's where you apply the metric of, the definition of insanity, right?
Yes.
And so I think we're at that point right now, for sure. Man, I want to get this rolling. I'm serious. We need to put feelers and feeders out to people we know and get this rolling, because I don't think if we don't start this, I don't know who is.
Won't start.
I don't know who's talking about it. People want to continue to just talk through a mic and not mobilize people to do activism, not do different rallies like what you've been doing, giving people different initiatives to do. You've been trying to get people elected. Like, this is something on a mass scale that this could be the fight for 2 years, that people could feel like they're doing something to change our reality, to change the outcome. And I know that I'm hungry for my next hill to climb, or hill to take, as the Marines say. And I'm sure there's so many out there that are looking for the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of people were asking after the midterms, so what's next? We look at the midterms and we look at what we did well, and we look at what we didn't do well. We came out in droves on election day. What we didn't do well is we didn't embrace. I love the analogy of, well, the speed limit is 60, but I'm still going to go 30 and expect to win the race against people who are going 60. Well, you're not going to win the race. It's the hockey team. It's the basketball team. It's the football team that doesn't want to score until the end of the game. No, we're going to handle it at the end. Back now, it should be back now that the stream just froze. My internet connection is up in the air here. Our internet provider on Long Island is the worst, Optimum. But what I was saying was essentially we can't let our opponents out to a huge lead. We can't spot them points and expect to come back in the fourth quarter every time. Those days are over, so we have to play to win. And I'm ready to rock and roll. I want to get this idea going. I see Alan Jacoby, who's a good friend in the chat, talking about having ballot harvesting parties, like a pig roast. Hey, let's have fun. We don't have to be like the Democrats and like be miserable. Let's have fun with it. I'll throw a keg party. You know what I mean? We'll have a few drinks. You know what I mean? We'll meet whatever. We can have. We're fun. We're Republicans. We're patriots. We love each other's company. We could turn this into a real, like in Arizona, those ballot drop box watch parties. They were tailgating in front of drop boxes. It's fun. We can do it, and we could turn it into something that's enjoyable, like how we've done in Long Island, turning political activism into something fun and engaging and enjoyable, like you've done in California, and we can win our elections at the same time. So I want to get this thing moving, and I want to see if we can get it done, because I think if we do put together these ballot harvesting operations, like what happened in California, according to Rick Grinnell, in some of those Republican congressional victories, we will see victories across this country that nobody would have seen coming. And we will be doing it because we'll be using the resources that the Democrats thought we never were going to use. They will be shocked by this, and then you'll see what happens. They'll go, uh-oh, Republicans are better at harvesting than us. We got to ban it. Sure. And ban mail-in voting. I'm cool with that.
And when we're having fun, since you mentioned Alan, we can smoke a Patriot cigar. You can promo code 1776FF.
Yes.
By the way, 1776FF. Shameless plug there. No, guy has epic cigars, but and we can dance in the streets when we take down scumbags like Mitch McConnell, McCarthy, the McChickens as I call them, or McNuggets, because they're all fat and plump. And that's what this is about. It's time to take the fight to them. I mean, selling T-shirts, informing people, all that stuff's great, doing rallies. But now I think that God is calling us with this announcement last night to level up and lean in. And so, Sean, we got to get Scott on the phone. We got to start making stuff happen, brother.
I agree. I'm gonna see if we can, after the Georgia runoffs. I know Scott is focused on Herschel Walker right now, but 100% dialing into that resource. He is incredible. He works himself sick, like literally sick, but he will go to the end of the earth for this country, and he's a good dude. Scott Pressler's a great guy, and I think we can. I think we could start to really put something really fun together here with this ballot harvesting operation, and I think it's something that would not just be a fun endeavor, but an impactful and a winning endeavor. And we could win like nobody has ever seen before. And wouldn't that be fantastic? I think it would. Yeah, believe me. That's right, believe me. On that note, it's 10:03. So, Cordy, why don't you let everybody know where they can follow you, you handsome devil? Where the hell are they going to follow you?
Well, I don't even know how to react when he says that. My New York friend, I'm kissing him through the screen. Not in the way the people that live and identify a certain way, but brother to brother. Okay, just to be clear about that.
Yes.
But anyway, you can go to 1776foreverfree.com at Dr. Cordy Williams, so DrCordiew, or you can go to drcordywilliams.com as well. And on Instagram, on the Twitter, on the Getter, on the True Social, we're on all of them, believe me.
Yes, awesome. Check us out, loudmajorityus.com, rumble.com/loudmajorityus, and obviously for any of the Trump voice and Captain Deplorable 45 related stuff, CaptainDeplorable45.com. It's a lot of fun. And we will be back next Wednesday with another episode of The Unalienable, right? Hopefully with maybe some news and more plans about our big operation that we're going to try and put together to harvest like nobody's ever harvested before because we love our farmers. They're fantastic. And, and we will see how we can do it. Thank you, folks, for watching. Getter, Rumble, all you guys, Facebook, YouTube, and everyone watching all over the place. We appreciate it. We thank you. God bless you. God bless America. And we will catch you next week. Thank you, guys.
God bless you guys.